Let's take you back to the end of last season because the San Jose State Spartans felt like they did everything that they needed to do in order to make the conference championship game. Well, they ended up not going to Vegas, and now entering 2024, Brent Brennan, the head coach, is gone. A ton of players are gone, including the starting quarterback, a lot of good offensive and defensive pieces, and that causes for a lot of concern with this program. However, there is room for optimism as Ken Niumatalolo, a longtime Navy head coach, is taking over, is going to implement his philosophy with the Spartans team. And can the Spartans try to push back for a spot in the Mountain West Conference title in 2024? You're about to find out what I think here in this video. What's up, Tailgaters? You're in the booth with Tailgate Nate today. Welcome, one and all, to my channel, and welcome to prediction season. I'm predicting all 134 FBS level college football teams this summer, and guys, that means I'm doing your favorite team, which means you got to hit the subscribe button, got to ring the bell. We are so close to being done with prediction season, and if somehow I haven't done your favorite team yet, you're going to want to stay tuned for when I do your favorite team. And if you're as big as a college football nerd as I am, you're going to want to hear what I have to say during the season. Subscribing, ringing the bell, make sure you don't miss an upload. But guys, there are other ways you can help support this channel. One of them is just simply by watching this video, which I really appreciate you guys doing a lot. But you can do a lot more, like liking, commenting, sharing, and interacting with the channel in any other way you can. So let's dive on in to the San Jose State Spartans here in 2024. And we'll dive on in by talking about them in this way. First, we'll dive into the team's offense. Next, we'll dive into the team's defense. And at the end of the video, we will go through the San Jose State football schedule, and we'll give it a game-by-game preview and prediction. There are a couple more things I do want to say, though, before we do get started, because I want to tell you right over here are going to be the stats the team put up either offensively or defensively last season. And, of course, for your viewing pleasure, right below the team's logo, I have put the team's coaching staff. It is Ken Niumatalolo time here with SJSU. But again, this is going to be a roster that is going to look nothing like what it did last season. Some positions do return a ton of really good talent, and when we talk about those positions, I'll let you know. But most notably, in the quarterback room, you're losing a really good player. A former Hawaii transfer, now a quarterback that's going to hope to play on Sundays in the National Football League. Siobhan Cordero will no longer be the quarterback here of this team. Last season, 2,773 yards, 20 touchdowns, and only 4 interceptions for Cordero last season. He was a very good quarterback throughout his college career, was a very good quarterback for this team last season. And sure, while the touchdown number you would have liked to be a little bit higher, you can't complain with what you got out of Siobhan Cordero last year, but you will not be having him on your football team this season. To me, and to I'm sure a lot of you out there, that is a pretty substantial loss considering how good, how experienced, and how impactful of a player he can be. He was also the team's third leading rusher with 272 yards and had 3 rushing touchdowns a season ago. Again, likes to sit in the pocket and throw, but can run. Their average 3.4 yards per carry. Sack yardage is included in that from last season. So, okay, who are the quarterbacks that are going to be making an impact in the room this season? Well, Jay Butterfield and Walker Aguette are 2 names that come back. I believe Walker Aguette, he didn't throw a pass last year, but I believe threw some passes in 2022, while Jay Butterfield went 7 of 11 for 80 yards last season. So you bring a transfer in from the portal in Emmett Brown. He is leaving from the Washington State Cougars to come over and be the quarterback here. Now, he does not have a ton of playing experience in his own right either. Last season, only 2 completions on 4 pass attempts. Again, those you math nerds out there, pretty easy one to do there, 50%, 14 yards, and 1 interception. So this quarterback battle, kind of up in the air. Now, you saw Emmett Brown on the thumbnail there just a little bit ago. That's because ourlads.com has him as the starting quarterback. And if I were to pick someone, I would probably pick Emmett Brown to be that starting quarterback. But I got to tell you, it wouldn't surprise me if Butterfield won it. Wouldn't surprise me if Walker Aguette was able to win it. Emmett Brown, I think, is going to be that guy that's going to be able to get it. But this quarterback battle is really up in the air for me. And I'd be very, very, very interested to see who wins that starting job for Ken Niumatalolo, Craig Stutzman, and this offense this upcoming season. Out of the running back room, your top 2 leading rushers from a season ago are going to be gone. That was Kerry Robinson, 1,194 yards and 18 touchdowns on 170 carries. No more eligibility for him. He's graduated. And Quayle Conley, a really good running back in his own right, 842 yards, my apologies, 9 rushing touchdowns on 131 carries. Robinson averaged 7 yards per carry flat, while Conley, 800, I'm just reading the same stat line there, 6.4 yards per carry for Conley. He's transferred over, followed Brent Brennan to the Arizona Wildcats. You will have neither of them in the running back room this season. So, okay, who comes back? Well, Jabari Bates is back, 11 carries for 30 yards last season, but the main guy coming in that's probably going to give you the most carries out of the running back room this season is Floyd Chalk the fourth. He enters in through the transfer portal, and I'll tell you where he comes from here in just a little bit. I believe a Grambling State transfer. Yes, he is a Grambling State transfer. So a guy right there that very well could prove to be the leading rusher, and I think will be the leading rusher here. You also do get Caden Collins and a lot of other depth pieces back, but it'll be Chalk Bates along with the depth room that has to sort of pick up the pieces from what Robinson and Conley left it here in the running back room. Really good rushing attack last season. It'll be hard to replicate here in 2024. Now you move on to the wide receiver room, and I thought initially they lost a lot more talent than this, but they actually returned quite a bit in the wide receiver room. We'll talk about all those pieces in a minute. However, you have to talk about what they lost, and Charles Ross still is a big loss to this offense. Second leading receiver, had 347 yards, a touchdown on 26 catches last season. Brandon Alvarez also leaves through the portal, and Isaac Jernigan is gone due to graduation. You dive on in what this team lost out of the tight end room in the transfer portal. Well, Dominic Mazzotti is gone, third leading receiver, 322 yards, 2 touchdowns, and Sam Olsen was the fourth leading receiver, 310 yards and 3 touchdowns for him last season. So losing both of those guys are going to be very impactful losses here for this tight end room. But when you look at the pass catchers coming back, this wide receiver room does return a lot of good talent from the past couple seasons. Nick Nash had 728 yards and 8 touchdowns last season. He comes back. Justin Lockhart is back after not really playing a whole lot last season. I believe some injuries or things may have impacted that. Malachi Miller is back, Matthew Coleman, Cooper Hawk, and many more names return, as well as Trayshawn Hurry and many other names enter through the transfer portal. Although Trayshawn Hurry probably going to be the only guy that enters here through the portal that sees significant playing time, and actually I'm realizing there should be a Y in that name. There you go, fix that right up for you. Tight end room, you do return Skylar Loving Black and Jacob Stewart, who probably is going to be the lead tight end for this team this year, enters in through the transfer portal. So there you go. There's your pass catching room this season for the San Jose State Spartans. And honestly, depending on what you get out of the quarterback play, I think your wide receiver room is going to be pretty solid here. But the offensive line, they lose a ton of guys. Jaime or Jamie, however you pronounce that first name, Navarro is gone. Tyler Ostrom and Anthony Pardue, all of those guys have graduated. Fernando Carmona, Ryan Stewart, and Jake Steele are all gone through the transfer portal. So this is what you're left with on the offensive line, and I will apologize for any mispronunciations because I know I will be butchering some of these names. Malik Williams, Nate Hale, Marist Talavu, Uluwa Kinofo, Talia Uli, Hudson Mesa, and Kai Davison will all be returning to the offensive line. Again, I sincerely apologize for any pronunciations. I have a little sheet down here that tries to help me out the best I can. Still apologize for any mispronunciations. Will Lees and Tyler Chen are guys that enter in through the transfer portal. They're going to try to give a little bit of a boost to this offensive line. But overall, guys, I mean, you take a look at what this offense was last year, throw that out. This offense is not going to be the same here in 2024. You're going to have a new starting quarterback. The running back room is basically going to be completely new, as Robinson and Conley had the bulk of the carries last season, and they also were good receiving backs there. So it's a big mystery of what you're going to get in this running back room. The wide receiver room and tight end, okay, wide receiver more so than tight end room, but the pass catching room as a whole, I think will still end up being pretty solid. I think the offensive line will still end up being pretty solid. Still got some returners from last season that were pretty impactful here to this team, but overall, I just see it being really hard for this offense to replicate what it did last season. And the defense, well, same thing for me. I find it hard to see them replicating what they did last season. And I say that because, I mean, look, again, you're getting a new philosophy in here to this team with Ken Nui-Matololo, Derek Odom being that defensive coordinator for you this season. And you're losing a ton of talent, which we're actually going to start going through here right now. I'll explain more here at the end why I just don't see this defense being as good as it was last season. Okay, let's again get into talking about the defensive front here. You'll lose a lot of really good talent, including Trey Smith, one of your best defensive players last year, period. He has gone through the portal, 67 tackles, and led the team with 6.5 sacks last season. You also are losing a couple guys due to graduation. They have utilized their collegiate eligibility. That's Noah Lavulu and Jay Kakiva. Again, I will sincerely apologize for any mispronunciations because we got one coming up I know I'm about to butcher, but those guys will be gone. No more football for them as both of those latter two guys have graduated. Most notable loss, though, on that defensive front, obviously, is Trey Smith. Okay, so who comes back? Well, Sione Toia will be back, as well as Justin Stearns, Quincy Likio, Dejan Roney, Gafa Faga, and Matahola, as well as many other players here on this defensive front. You still are getting some pretty solid players back. I mean, Toia had 36 tackles with 5 sacks a season ago. That was second on the Spartans team last season. Stearns was a good defensive lineman for you. So you still get some really good pieces coming back, as well as a couple transfers coming in here to this team. Now, one of them I know I can say because it is Powell Reed. He's going to be transferring into this program, but most notably to me, he probably will see a little bit more playing time than Reed, although they might see similar playing time. It's Sayone Kolo Ki Haka Ufisi. And I did my best to try to pronounce that one. My sheet even tried to help me out. Pronounce it, sounded out the best you could. But he will be transferring in through the portal. I'll tell you where he comes from here in just a second. He is coming in from the College of San Mateo, which I believe is a community college. So he's going to see some pretty impact minutes this year on the defensive front, I do believe. Now in the linebacker room, well, you do lose a really solid piece here in Brian Parham. He is going to be leaving this team through the transfer portal, and he was the leading tackler last year. Not only the leading tackler, but he broke triple digits, 106 tackles, 2.5 sacks, 2 pass defending. You throw a pick on there. Very impactful player that'll be gone. And Matthew Tago, however you pronounce that last name, is gone due to graduation. He did have a pick last year as well, 3 pass defended with 27 tackles for the linebacker last season. So who comes back here? Well, Jordan Pollard will be back. Second leading tackler last year, had 79 of them to go along with 2 picks, which was tied for second here on the team. Taniela Latu, Jordan Cobbs, Charles Rogers, Ethan Powell, Noah McNeil Franklin, and Dylan Lee, as well as many other names, returned for the linebacker room for the Spartans this season. Now the defensive back room. This is where you get into some really dangerous territory because you'll lose some phenomenal players. One of them is going to be going over to Texas through the transfer portal. He leaves out of the cornerback room. It is Javion Cole. Listen to this stat line, 38 tackles, 10 passes defended, which led the team, and he also led the team with 3 interceptions a season ago. Javion Cole is a phenomenal player, not talked about enough last season. Well, obviously he was talked about amongst Mountain West groups, but now he'll be talked about at a national level. He's going to go play for one of the best teams in college football, and Kenyon Reed is gone due to graduation, 33 tackles, a sack, and 3 pass defended for the corner last season. In the safety room, well, you lose another really good player here. Trey Jenkins was your top leading tackler among defensive backs last season, 67 tackles, 4 pass defended, and 2 picks. Again, tied with Pollard for second on the team last year. He is gone to play in the NFL. He's gone now to play on Sundays. Chase Williams and Andrew Jenkins are a couple other guys that leave. Both of them will be off here through graduation. No more eligibility for them. And I believe I have Andrew's last name wrong. And I do not. For some reason, I thought the 2 Jenkins were spelled differently. Nope, they are spelled the same. I don't know if there's any relation between the 2 of them. Hey, that'd be cool. Spartan fans, let me know in the comment section down below. But you lose all those guys out of the defensive backfield. So who do you return here? Well, the cornerback room is going to be mainly returners this upcoming season. DJ Harvey will be the most notable one. 28 tackles and 5 pass defended a season ago. He'll lead the cornerback room this year, as well as Jalen Boehner, Michael Dansby, and Caleb Womack, among some other names there that will be more of depth pieces, but those are the main 4 guys you'll see in the defensive back grouping this season. Xavion Reese and Isaiah Rivas will be returning in the safety room, and you get some transfers in here as well. Robert Rahimi and Larry Turner Gooden will be coming in here to try to make up for what they lost with Jenkins, Williams, and Jenkins again here in that safety room. And kickers are people too, guys. You know we like to show them some love. Alex Weir is gone, so no more punting duties for him. He has graduated. So you dive into the portal when Trent Carrizosa tries to take over the punting duties this year, while you do get your primary place kicker back in Kyler Halverson. So overall, when you talk about this defense, again, I just don't see it being as good as last year. I think you lost a lot of quality, and you lost a very notable piece in every position grouping here. Trey Smith, Byron, sorry, not Byron. If I said Byron earlier, I apologize. Brian Parham Javion Cole, Trey Jenkins, even some of the other guys there, like some of the graduates they leave, and even that special teams punter and Alex Weir, who was phenomenal for the team last year. I just don't see this team being as good as they were last season. However, I think the safety room can still be solid. You have a lot of returners in the linebacking room and on the defensive front that I think are still going to be solid pieces. Overall, though, I just don't see them being as good as they were last year overall. Now, that is not to say I still don't think San Jose State's going to be a bad football team, but when you come here with this schedule, I think it's going to be a little tough to navigate for this team. You've heard me talk about it in a lot of videos prior for San Jose State, and I just think the schedule is going to be really tricky for them to navigate. We'll go through my prediction here in a minute, but I got to tell you what everything means. Any game at home is underlined, while any game on the road is in italics or that slanted text. You see any game in green, a game that I see the Spartans being able to win fairly easily, while any game in yellow is going to be a close competitive game, but one that I still see the Spartans being able to win, while any game in red is a loss. And without further ado, we dive on into the schedule. And look, the front half of the schedule is really very, very, very manageable for this team. They should be able to start out with a win against Sacramento State, get the quarterback position down, get some of these transfers filled in, get the offensive and defensive philosophy set in stone, because then bam, in week 2, you hit the ground running. You got to go on the road and play the Air Force Falcons. Now, yes, Air Force, much like San Jose State, lost a lot of production last year. In fact, the Falcons only returned 5 starters from a season ago, but Troy Calhoun knows how to develop talent. He's one of the best head coaches in college football and doesn't get enough praise for it because he's the coach there with the Air Force Academy, which is very unfortunate because he is very, very good head coach, knows how to develop talent. Air Force is one of the most aggressive defenses in the Mountain West Conference year in and year out. The same will be said about this edition of the Falcons football team, and they will beat San Jose State there in week 2. But that's okay. The Spartans are going to be able to bounce back, get back above 500 with a win against Kennesaw State, the new team to the FBS fray this season. And look, Kennesaw State, I really want to root for them, especially considering some of the stories we've seen in years prior with James Madison and Jacksonville State and all the success they've had. I just don't see it for Kennesaw State. Not a good team even in the FCS fray last season, and they're losing a lot of talent. I think it's going to take them a while to adjust to the FBS level. That's a win for the Spartans of San Jose State, but then you got to go on the road. A little bit of a shorter week as this game is going to be taking place on Friday, and you go on the road to play the Washington State Cougars. Now, Washington State is a team that also, you could say, lost a lot of talent from last year. Obviously, a former Washington State player in Emmett Brown is going to try to take over the starting quarterback role for San Jose State this year, and most notably, though, Washington State does lose Cam Ward, a lot of other really talented pieces in that wide receiver room defensively, but they still got a lot of really nice talent here. I think John Mateer is going to play solid quarterback for him. You got some really good wide receiver transfers coming in. Defense should still be solid. And for Jake Dickert's club that just kind of crashed off of the mountain last year, I think they're going to be able to be a pretty solid team this season. They will beat San Jose State there as San Jose State goes 2-0 at home, 2 for 2, or I should say 2-2 here on the season so far, 0 for 2 on the road, and 2-0 at home. Well, let's improve that to 3-0 at home because Nevada, look, that's just a team that I also don't think is going to be that great this season. That's a team trying to find its identity, trying to build up, and I just don't see things going well for the Wolfpack this season. But then this is where things I think are going to start to take a turn for the worst. If you are a Spartan fans, it's been pretty good up to this point. It's been pretty solid, probably beating the teams you're supposed to beat, losing to the teams that you're probably going to end up losing to, maybe the teams that are going to end up being favored over you. But this is the point in the season where things just take a downward spiral here, because I think it's going to be tough to win a single game here the rest of the way, just because there are a lot of good teams in the Mountain West Conference and because there is so much change for San Jose State this year. One of those really good teams this season, I think, is going to end up being Colorado State. Now, really good might be a tiny bit of an overstatement, but Jay Norvell's squad is going to take a jump from where they were last season. You get Braden Fowler, Nicolosi coming back, one of the best, if not the best wide receiver in the Mountain West Conference, and Torrey Horton is back. Ton of really experienced talent comes back on defense, as well as some good transfers enter that defensive back room. They're going to give San Jose State all they can handle, and San Jose State, through the first half of the season, goes 3-3. And I forgot to mention there, right before that Nevada game, they do get their first bye week, and so that's going to help them beat the Wolfpack as well. Then you get to come back home, though, and play the Wyoming Cowboys. Up to this point, they've been undefeated at home. Well, good things don't last forever, and I see this being one of those good things. It just doesn't last. Wyoming, I think, is going to come in here on the road to play San Jose State and come out here with the win. Now, look, Craig Bowl is gone. ton of really good offensive pieces are gone, and Wyoming may struggle to put together an offense that's going to be really dynamic this season. But the defense is still loaded. It returns almost everybody from last season, and that's going to lead them to a ton of wins, especially for a team that might see inconsistent quarterback play this year. I see Wyoming's defense being able to take over. They will beat San Jose State. And then you just got 4 really tough games here coming up. On the road against Fresno State, that's a loss. I think they're going to be one of the best teams in the Mountain West this season. Mikey Keene is back, and Jeff Tedford's squad is just really, really talented. And even though Oregon State lost a ton of pieces from last year, they still have Ben Branson at quarterback, who led them to a 10-win season. You have to go on the road to play that one. And even though you get an extra week to prepare for that one, and yes, while Oregon State very well could fall off this year, and while it could be a winnable game, I definitely think Oregon State is the more talented team. They're going to be able to beat San Jose State. You get this one against the Boise State Broncos, and I think you lose this one as well, simply sort of for the same reason that you lose to Fresno State. Boise State is really, really talented. Ashton Genty, Malachi Nelson, ton of wide receiver pieces, really good defense, and that's going to be a loss there for the San Jose State Spartans. But now you get the interesting storyline. A little bit of a shorter week, but you get this game at home, and you get to play the UNLV Rebels. Now, even though I don't think the San Jose State team is going to be as good as the one that got fielded last season, this is still going to be a San Jose State team that, look, coming into this one, and I know new head coach, new players, everything, but the players that returned from last season know that UNLV took their spot in the conference championship game. They're going to be looking for some vengeance, but UNLV is going to be a pretty solid team this season. Even though Jade Maeva is gone, UNLV brings in a lot of really good talent here through the transfer portal. And while I pull up some of that talent here, I'll tell you about Matthew Sluka, who enters through the portal. I think is going to fit into this offensive system really well. Ricky White is back. Jaden Thomas is back at running back. Really good defensive back. 7 transfers come in, and I see UNLV beating San Jose State. And even though I don't think Stanford is going to be very good this year, I still see the Cardinal picking up a couple wins. They still got some pieces that made them competitive last year. And again, that losing streak to end the season just ramps up. So 3-9 for the Spartans. Ouch. After being on the verge of a Mountain West Conference championship game, look, I think the Spartans are going to get things figured out. And if everything clicks, I mean, I could be dead wrong on this team. It's just a team that I feel like not everything is going to gel the way it should. Not everything is going to fit together the way it should. And I just have them fallen short of what a lot of Spartan fans have as expectations this season. But let me know what you guys think in the comment section below. Remember to play hard but tailgate harder. And I'll see you guys in my next video. It's the UConn Huskies. Goodbye.